So they're going to hear us kind of like.
Oh, let's talk dirty because. And did you see the ad I put on Facebook? I said, I'm doing a live later with the man you love to hate.
Oh, how did I become the man that you love to hate?
Well, because everybody goes, oh, Brandon, and he's this and that about politics, and he's biased.
They're opinionated,
and as if everyone hasn't a bias in some way or other.
No, anyways. Oh my gosh, we're live.
Oh!
I think they could hear everything we said.
Really? Did you all hear that conversation? Because
Probably.
It was supposed to be private.
It's totally private. I mean, but that's the way of the world right now. I mean, nothing is private anymore. Hello, Penny. Welcome to our year-end, the kickoff of the year, the solstice, the beginning of the beginning of the end.
It seemed like a really good chart to do today because, everyone's doing, 2025 and the kind of, New Year's Eve into New Year's Day. Well, I think actually the solstice is far more powerful. And that's why I suggested to you, we did it with the US chart because of the US's Pluto return. So I'm really sorry to the rest of the world. But the fact is, the US really needs to be under the spotlight at the moment. And we need to look at the astrology of the US because we need a strong America. The planet is absolutely doomed without a strong America. That's my personal view.
And it also has a lot to do with the idea that the U.S. put themselves in that position. It's not like everybody was looking around for a savior. We kept saying, hey, we'll do it for you. Hey, we'll do it for you. But doesn't that also kind of lend itself to the shift that we're going through? And you have to sift through the shift. And the Piscean age is really quantified by the codependencies of the two fish, of the Pisces. And as we move into the age of Aquarius, it's a lot more of the personal accountability, personal responsibilities, that sort of thing. And the sensibilities are changing. And and that's the reason why we're seeing such a big shift, I think. And I do agree with you to a certain degree, but this is also our cure to that codependency.
Yeah, and I also think that what's so super interesting with Aquarius is that it is about the community at large. And I think it's about everybody learning and developing and becoming much more aware that we have to have respect for each other in our community, not just the community we live in locally, but the community at large, because it feels to me like this, and I'm going to get controversial now, but then we always do, wokeism is actually doing the opposite of what I think was intended, because it's making everybody so scared to say anything about anything to anyone because we might say the wrong thing. This is against free speech. That's my feeling.
And we have that under attack right now in the US. We're putting TikTok up for bid right now. What's that, love?
I'm just saying thank you, Andy, because she said bang on, Penny.
Yeah, to me, it's a constant, it's a constant influx and it's a constant change. And, we take a look at Uranus and we take a look at this Uranus return where freedom of speech is going to be a big thing. It's going to be a huge thing, which is why I have some plans for next year. Penny's involved, everybody.
I'm taking a look at you, Brandon, because you look really cool in that blue shirt.
We do have to have our completely inappropriate Craig Ferguson moment. You look fantastic.
It's nothing.
It's the
little thing I threw on.
I'm doing great. And this was my bonus shirt. And I have to tell you, this shirt, like I wore this at I did a fundraiser for a local community theater and we sold it out. We packed it in. People were there. It was a great night. Then I'm like, I need something stunning instead of the stuff that I usually pull out of the back of my car at the last minute. And I'm like, the wrinkles will go away. And so I went out and I spent some money on this shirt. I'm like, oh, fantastic. And then I'm like, when am I ever going to wear it again? And I kid you not, when I sent you that text, I'm like, I almost said to you, I have a really nice shirt I want to wear again. So can we do something near Christmas? And then you show up looking like you're royalty, for crying out loud. Look at the two of us. And we didn't even talk about it, did we?
No, we didn't. We're so
No.
color coordinated. I mean, it's just amazing. It's extraordinary. There must be some kind of, I don't know, psychic bond between us. Do you know what now, Brandon? Everybody is going, bleh. They're at it again. They're doing all this kind of, flirty, worty stuff, and and they're all going to tune in and watch.
You can't help it. You can't help it. You can't help it.
Thank you, Demon. I love us together as well. Cosmic BL, you.
Well, I appreciate that. But it's, but when we get down to like brass tacks and everything, I've also noticed, but I think even kind of how we're dressed today actually has something to be said for the astrology. We have this dynamic going on right now that we're searching for our own personal truths, because we looked at, we look at kind of like what we're going through in all of this. And listen, I still stand very much in the line item of, until you show me that the election wasn't stolen, it's stolen. Right? To me, it's very much like the fact that the 2020 election went through 180 something lawsuits and withheld that scrutiny to say, yes, Joe Biden won legitimately, is the same scrutiny we should be using now with the 2024. I'm not being a conspiracy theorist. I'm trying to apply the exact same logic that's being applied to me. And it is the amount of inequality that seems to go on. And I think that that's what the world is really worried about. They are watching us be completely off kilter. They're watching us be like, oh, and by the way, immigrants suck. Because for the first 280 years, we were like, you know what? Immigrants are where it's at. Give us your poor. Give us your... And then we turn that a dime.
You were immigrants. You're all immigrants. Oh, is that not woke?
Yeah, and you're an immigrant too, in Malta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the UK. I'm only 3 generations UK based.
Where were you before? Germany? France?
Yeah, my great grandparents were from Germany and from Ireland. So I'm a bit of a mix, and a Scottish bit as well, and Norway, Denmark. I'm a
we should still do, like, I've never done my ancestry for a whole host of reasons, but we should pull our ancestry. We're probably related, which would just make this all kind of like, it would make it incredibly like dirty and a must watch all at the same time. So keeping up with the Kardashians, or whatever. But
yeah, Brandon, we need to address this. Look, Simi is saying Canada is falling apart. Lord knows what the new year will bring. And you are too in Spain, Jam LeBlanc. So, Europe is having all of this falling apart as well. I mean, France has been through a really tough time, and so is Germany. And England, the UK, I don't know what's going on. And they've just announced that Mandelson, who happened to be friends with, what's his name? The guy that hung himself, the child molester, is going to be the British ambassador to America.
Really? So
Jeffrey Epstein.
So I think what you're doing,
a friend of Jeffrey Epstein. So
so was Trump. So was Bill Clinton. Like, we've gone down this. We've lowered the bar so far that it's there. And by the way, Nanette Blaze, thank you for saying that the election was not stolen. Prove it. And I think that is super biased. Get your own channel. And the thing that immigrants are not wrong at all. And by the way, if you spend time on my channel, you would hear me say immigration needs to be cleaned up. There are some people here that are not okay. Not at all. They've taken advantage of our inequalities and our inequities. And they get into the country and they pervasively move through it. That is less than 0.5%. The other 99.95% of people that are immigrants should not be paying the price for that 5% of us not being able to do our job, not only at the border, but also through our processing. The immigration problem begins and ends with the United States government not providing resources to go through the induction process to either stay or go. It is that simple. There is nothing about people overrunning the border. There is nothing about people being deceptive at the border. It has everything to do with the fact that they sit around for 7 to 15 years before their court case is even heard. That is a resource issue. It is easily solved, but instead it is used as political banter. You can talk about immigration, but the idea that you turn immigrants into the enemy is the cultural astrology that we keep touching on. And that is, we have to villainize things to be able to either say, which side are you on? We're getting put onto choices. And I think Europe is facing this too.
Yeah, and I think that that's what has to flip. And I think that's what can flip with Pluto in Aquarius. I think we can flip this over. And I agree, Cosmic BL, you're saying we're all related simply because we are human. Yes, we are Homo sapiens. We are human beings. And Deb Ruggles is saying she's third generation American since her ancestors didn't come over on the Mayflower. Wonder if I'll be deported. I mean, you know, see me saying you are so right, Brandon. Same here in Canada, thanks to our PM. Jam LeBlanc, you're saying my husband was watching Fox News. They were talking Biden. Oh my God, then turn it off.
Yeah, there's, you know, you want to talk about biases? It's in we don't have free speech anymore. We have paid per view speech, which is why in the new year, I'm going to be announcing, you know, More Than a Medium channel network on YouTube. Penny's going to be coming along, everybody. Everybody's going to get a voice in this. Astrologer Penny Dix is going to be our news in the Mediterranean. Be like, can you see Russia from there? I gotta find somebody in Alaska as well. Listen, you can't beat the seafood.
I'll tell you what I can see.
Ooh, what can you see? Like, you should have never printed those pictures. But listen, why don't we dive into some astrology?
Yes.
Why don't we take a look at the
charts? Guys, was the winter solstice, because this is fast approaching on Saturday morning, the 21st. And I think that to look at this as the sort of the next quarter of the astrological year that takes us up to the spring equinox is a really good place to kick off. Would you like to introduce this, Brandon?
Well, just as in form of a little bit of lesson here, you know, the winter solstice is actually deemed on two levels. First of all, it is the nadir of the sun. In other words, it is only going to rise up so far in the sky. It will do that for 3 days, which is why the sun dies in the sky. It happens to be against, and by the way, if you are in Syria, I believe Damascus, just outside of Damascus, if you see the height of the sun every day for 3 days, it dies on the Southern Cross, which is where the sun dies on the cross for 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And and then it was, everything in the Bible is an astrological like throwback. And it is also determined by the entry into Capricorn, which is why you'll see the quadruple zeros here. It happens to be coming in on this in the second house, which is significant because you have this part of all of our value systems, everything that we're talking about, like don't fall apart, don't whatever. And we're sitting around looking around at each other going, what do we value? What do we do here? And it's only fitting that the sun comes in Capricorn in the second house, you know, which is a house of Taurus, which is a house of you know, stability and everything else. So maybe is this a turning point, Penny? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that I think the chart is incredibly interesting. First of all, we need to look at the fact that you've got this fixed horizon. You've got Scorpio on the ascendant, Taurus on the descendant, with retrograde Uranus on the descendant. And if we're looking at this particular chart as a collective and not on a personal level, then there are going to be some further shocks, surprises, awakenings for the collective in general. Because look at it, it's virtually conjunct the descendant. And it's applying to the descendant because it is retrograde. You've also got Jupiter in that 7th house. and
Yeah.
it's in Capricorn. Sorry, it's in Gemini.
Yeah.
Also retrograde, and I think this is about. There's a sense, I think, at the moment that the collective are going to get caught into massive overthinking and anxiety and fear brought on potentially by actually earth events or earth weather or solar weather that is going to
Mhm.
rattle us a bit over the next 2 to 3 months, let alone the next 2 to 3 weeks. Now let's look at Mercury in Sagittarius, now direct,
Yeah.
still in its shadow, in the first house. Dialogue needs to take place to get to the truth, because Sagittarius is about truth. And sorry,
Mhm.
you want to say something,
Yeah,
Brandon?
yeah. I just want to talk about that being in opposition to Jupiter, because that's being a very interesting dynamic
Mm,
as this kind of transition hits here. Mercury went, direct. It's in the first house. This is also kind of that constrictive free speech thing as well. Not only is it getting to the truth, because you want to pull out, the only way you're going to grow is when an opposition says to you, slow down a little bit. Are you sure? We're only going to get one shot at doing this. So it's a lot of that filter. It's a lot of that piece of it
mm,
where then your personal truths are going to come out. Your collective truths are going to come out. Being that busy seventh house right there
mhm.
is, between Jupiter and then Uranus being there. You also got to remember Algol gets placed into that relationship house here. Like now, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is revealing the BS artists in your life. The ones that aren't really serving you, the ones that aren't really, you can keep them around if you want. But I think one of the challenges that we have as individuals in this society is that we tend to keep people around because we're like, well, they did something wrong to me 2 years ago, but I'll keep them around and I'll go back and I'll be like, oh, I knew it back then. I shouldn't have done it. Bullshit. You kept them around for a reason. Cut it out. They're going to
Mm,
either repeat themselves or it's not going to whatever. And I'm not saying somebody can't do something wrong and you can forgive them and move on. What I'm
mm,
saying is that don't keep them around because you can't get past that thing that they did. This energy pulls that out. What
mm.
what do you think?
Yeah, I'm just also want to pick up on something that Jam LeBlanc has said about that she's heard a prediction from a medium that a big earthquake could come in the next couple of weeks or so. And I think that Uranus on the descendant could certainly echo that. I don't think that's beyond the realms of possibility. There has been a big earthquake, but a sort of under the sea based one, which I think happened couple of days ago. I
Yeah.
think it was in the. I'm not sure. It was. I think it was in the Pacific Ocean. I can't remember. But what I'm curious about with this chart, Brandon, is the Moon in Virgo, which
Yep.
is not a particularly comfortable place for the Moon because it's.
Exactly.
But it's mutable. But the Moon
Yep.
is rules Cancer. It's cardinal. It's directive, and the Moon is actually squaring Jupiter in Gemini. And I think that what's going to happen over the next 3 months is that the events on the planet are going to take over and maybe even in our individual lives. And what this will bring out is a difficulty that we've really got to overcome to tune into that first thought that our intuitive self tells us about
Love it.
whatever is going on in our life or what might be unfolding on the planet, because that moon square Jupiter is actually causing a bit of a problem. And if you look at it, it's actually making a T square with the Saturn Jupiter square, which is an ongoing square that we are going to have
Mhm.
for quite a while. And that Saturn Jupiter square is exact on the 24th. So
Yep.
that's Christmas Eve. And
Love
that
it.
is like this huge, I think, emotional tension. And if you look at the position of it in this chart in the fourth house and the seventh house, you've got the relationship issues, the family issues, all this stuff that can come up in holiday seasons, when we have festive get-togethers that really cause such anguish and anxiety for people. This is supposed to be a happy, joyful opportunity, a time for celebration. This was, the winter solstice is it the Saturnalian time of year, the
Yeah.
pagan? I can't quite remember. I can't remember. I
Well,
didn't look it up.
and listen, Saturn is ruled by Capricorn. So the fact that to pay attention to Saturn today is a very important thing. And
Yeah,
listen, just as a sidebar, Maggie, we see your comment here. We love you. Keep going with this. Our job isn't to change anybody. Give them the opportunity to change and meet
yeah, yeah. You've frozen on me, Brandon.
work.
You've
So good
frozen
job by
on me.
you. That's all you need to know.
You've
Of
frozen.
course
You've
I
frozen.
froze on you.
Yeah.
Of course I froze
Yeah,
on you.
I'm seeing what Maggie's saying, and yes, please, Maggie, try and get into your inner core being, and
And
we don't have to look outside of ourselves, do we, Brandon? It's all
yeah,
within.
and you're not, and you're not alone. There are other people that are going through that exact same thing, because every holiday we fool ourselves thinking that we have to have a kumbaya moment. We have to go back to when we were a child or whatever.
Mm.
And that ends up being the challenge. So astrologically, those challenges are sitting right here in that chart, that
Okay.
relationship piece of it, right?
Mm, mm.
That
And
relationship part of having difficult conversations.
and there's a little bit of a Scrooge feeling about this chart with that sun in Capricorn in the second house, as if we've all gone a little bit mad in Sagittarius season and overspent, and so suddenly we're saying, no, I'm not going to buy that for Christmas. No, I'm not going to buy that for the holidays. No, no, I'm not going to get all those presents, and as if we sort of somehow find that we spoil it for ourselves when we really don't need to. One of the things I often say to clients and on my videos is we all have choice. We can choose how we wish to celebrate the festive season. We can choose to be happy with whatever is on our plate, whatever that metaphor means. It doesn't have to be all gold tinsel and beautiful sparkly stars. If you're with, actually, if you're with the right people and
Mm.
you're with yourself and you're really in a good place in yourself, then you will actually be absolutely okay. It's when you're not honest with you that the problems arise. Would you agree, Brandon?
Totally. And it's funny. There's like a contentious energy to this too, where let's be honest. If you're gonna go, this is a grand mutable cross when you really look at it. That the sun is in
Yeah.
opposition, or the moon rather is in opposition to Saturn.
Pattern.
You've got, and then you've got Mercury and Pluto.
Mercury opposite Jupiter. Yeah, yeah,
And anything about the mutable signs creates the idea that, guess what? It is time to reinvent,
yeah.
where the cardinal energy is the initiator. Hey, I've got a great idea. The fixed one is like, are you sure you want to change? Because the old ways are the good ways. Then the mutables come in and clean it up and say, we're going to take a little bit of the old ways. We're going to reinvent some of them and figure out what doesn't work and figure out the new ways. So this
Mm,
mutable grand cross is actually a gift to us, because those of us that have been struggling, it is recognizing that, you know, um, that person isn't coming through the door to save us. In this
mm,
case, the government's not going to come in to save us. Money and value system isn't going to, winning the lottery is overstated now. Religion, I'm sorry to kind of go back to religion a lot of the times, but it's failing us left and right. It failed us in the 80s and 90s with scandal. It
mm,
is perpetually never really admitted its wrongs. And
mm,
we get to a point that when we go to step on the gas, and it's great to go to a candlelight vigil
mm.
mass, I can't wait to go. It is in my root. It is in my tradition. It is what I do with my parents. It's what I want to teach my kids.
Yeah.
And the other side of this, I know that veil gets thinner every time I go. but I
Right.
still hang on to it because that's what makes me feel good. So I come from a place of personal journey, and I do go
Mm.
back to a time when there was innocence in childhood and that sort of thing. This chart actually lends itself to you saying, okay, fine. You want to keep one piece of the old way. What's the part of the
Yes.
new way?
Yes. I think
That's
that's a
what
really
this is.
Yeah. I think that's a really good way to put it, Brandon, because we've also got to look at the Pluto in Aquarius, in that third house of communication, with Venus there, although obviously they're no way
Yeah.
in a conjunction. But Pluto in Aquarius in the third, I think, is really rather interesting because it's like transforming the way we communicate, transforming the way we are able to tune into the vibrations and the energies of these higher frequencies that will actually that are all around us. There are all these wonderful beings of light, these star beings, these spirit that have crossed over. There are so many elements and levels of energies that are waiting. We just have to ask them to be with us, to be with us now, to help us, to show us the way, to guide us. And they'll be only too happy to do that. And I know
And
sometimes that can sound bonkers, but it works for me.
it's funny this time of the year, and I'm going to totally give you a plug here, and I'm going to move forward here and remind you guys to sign up for Penny's stuff. Look out for her 2025 predictions, her readings, her connection with this time of the year. The thing that we're busy with in January and into February is people are trying to game plan their year ahead.
You've frozen again, Brandon.
Give it to you like it is. She's going to you got to take the good and take the bad. What's that, love?
Yeah,
Did
you
I
froze.
freeze?
We've obviously not got a great internet connection tonight, but
No, I'm going to tell you, though, people that have been watching me on this channel, is every single time I go to say something impactful, I freeze. And it's funny because
ah,
yeah, this is conspiracy time. So, anyways, back to this. You're this time of the year, you're trying to plan out what you're doing next year, January into February. Penny is an awesome resource. She's going to tell you like it is. You got to take the good, take the bad, figure it out on your own. But she's going to give you the tools for you to have a high emotional intelligence about how you're going to approach things moving forward. So make sure you catch her 2025 videos. Go to her website, sign up for her stuff today so that it lands in your inbox as well. I get your newsletter. You do know that, right? I get your newsletter.
oh, do
You're like,
you? I'm going to write one tomorrow, actually.
I know, I can't wait.
Matt is asking what your channel is. Your channel is Conscious Medium Brandon Ross.
Yeah, it is medium Brandon Ross. Yeah, it's I couldn't fit the conscious part in there, but medium Brandon Ross. You can find me on the
It's a
just
great
type in
channel.
If you type in Brandon Ross medium, you'll find it.
I'm going to give you a plug now because listen, Maggie, Brandon is actually an awesome medium. He's also an incredibly good intuitive astrologer. And he is an amazing human being who a lot of people misunderstand. I'm adding that because people do misread you. I think they do. And it's, you have to, um, people don't like people who stand out from the crowd, or there is envy around people that stand out from the crowd. Would you agree, Brandon?
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words. I think what happens is that when I hold up a mirror, they get mad at the mirror, the person holding the mirror instead of what they see, and it's okay. You know,
Yeah.
it's so funny. It's like, you remember how much criticism we got from being like all flirty and everything? It's like, this is not spiritual. And then we're just like,
Oh, yes, it
we're
is.
it is if you do it right, kids. Um, I'm growing my hair because she wants a pony. I don't know what to tell you. So it's terrible. I can't believe I just said that. But
I
but
can.
here, I know, right? But it's there were two things to our sense of humor. When we clicked and we hit it off, one of our first conversations was about, can you imagine the really incredibly awful stuff that's out there right now? Like, it wasn't even like it was factually wrong. It was just so. And if you take a look at the second house, you will see that the sun is moving into Capricorn. What an exciting time for astrologers to be able to. And you're just like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, we should be energized. We should have a sense of humor. We should have personalities. And if that makes it be a little bit flirty because our energy kind of reaches there, we're having fun, guys. Like, it's the way of the world, right?
You know
And
what, guys? We've never even met.
I
We've never
know,
physically met.
I know. As much as I do my best effort, I can't reach from here. Just, it just is what it is. But it's kind of, you see, like, it's quippy stuff like that where people are like, "Oh, I watch Penny and I watch Brandon and Penny, but I won't watch Brandon," because it's just kind of like mesmerizing. It's like, look deep into my purple. But anyways, the part about it too, I have a year-long immersive, and I actually have two things coming up. On New Year's Eve, I am doing a sound bath. It's a midnight meditation. It is free. It is a pay what you will. I work with a lot of people that have done recovery work, so they don't want to go out. And doing like a local thing still puts people at risk because they'll have to drive and all that other good stuff. So being able to hunker down, turn on your TV, watch it from there, is a great way. And I think most people stay in New Year's now. I mean, New Year's is one of those things that have really transforms to that, right? Like, were you entertaining for years? Like, I used to do this home party on Lake George with 15, 20 well-to-do people, and I go up there every year, and I do an evening of readings and that sort of thing, and
I
there's
stay I've tended the last few years to stay home on New Year's Eve, and this year my friend Sarah, whom I have the channel with called
yeah,
Channeling Penny and Sarah, and we've just uploaded our 2025 predictions, so check that out because it's quite interesting. And but basically I don't actually want to go out on New Year's Eve in Gozo because the driving is so appalling. And so that it doesn't matter whether I was drinking and driving or not drinking or driving or taking a taxi. I don't trust anyone on the roads here on New
yeah,
Year's Eve. I
it's a
value
safe
my life,
it's a
you know.
safety, isn't it? It is a safety thing. So I'm
Mm.
going to do sound healing. I'm going to do I'm going to do some music. I released, by the way, I have a song out called Everything Christmas, and it's if you're impatient and can't find it on YouTube and Spotify yet because they are slow to upload. If you become a member of my channel, you can see it on the back end of it. I put a video to it. Um, Anyways, having lobster rolls, I love that. What traditions do you do on New Year's Eve? Go ahead, put it in the comments. What's like the unique thing that you like to do, whether you stay home, whether you go out, whether you whatever. The
To have a glass
glorification.
of champagne.
Champagne, you
I
don't
like
drink
a glass
anymore,
of
Penny.
champagne.
We went over that.
I know, but it's New Year's Eve. Of course I have one glass of champagne.
Somewhere I can't drink. Like, I can't metabolize alcohol. I've never really been good at it. That doesn't mean that there wasn't a fifth of vodka that went down on, May 29th, 1989 for me. But on the other side of that, it's like I don't assimilate well with it, right? And I've thought about that. I've never like done read. People are like, "Oh, you don't drink because of the reading." I go, "No, I don't drink because I sleepy." Like I'm a drink in, and I'm like, doesn't mean I don't like a good pint sometimes. It doesn't mean that I won't have a drink. It's not my MO. It's not where it's at. And I think New Year's Eve became this alcoholic thing. And by the way, I'm going to say this out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Present company withstanding. This year, I have watched more people tell me that they quit drinking than any other year.
How interesting. Do you think that's something about Pluto's move into Aquarius?
100%.
Mm.
And I think that it is saving relationships. I think it
Mm.
is also saving souls out of relationships. Sometimes you have to sober up to know that you're not in a good spot too.
Mm.
And I think that the alcohol industry is going to get decimated in the next 2 years. All of these, like, the watered down light beers are going to be like, the White Claws or whatever. But hard liquor is going away.
Yeah.
Hard liquor is absolutely going away. And I'm not villainizing it. I'm not saying that, you can't have a celebratory thing, but to go from the mainstay of having alcohol in the daily thing. That was my struggle initially when we first started working together. I'm like, yeah, it's called Whiskey and Bagels. Let's see where we're going with this.
Mm.
And over time, it was a thing that kind of, like, I'm watching society change. I'm watching society. Like right now, I would argue against having a show called Whiskey and Bagels because people don't carbo load and people don't drink.
Mm.
Like we were so old ways with that, and now we're like, let's just get on and talk, right?
Yeah, yeah. But should we
Oh, and
move on? Should we move on to the winter solstice with the United States?
100%. And to answer the rest of your question, I'm going to tell you that I think it's directly related to our awareness and our consciousness because alcohol keeps our vibrations low,
Yeah, yeah,
dehydrates us.
yeah. I agree. And
There you go. Look at this bad boy.
whoa.
Mm.
Yeah,
So,
you're right, Deborah. Alcohol is evil. It destroys lives. It's a major legal killer, Kelly says. Um, yeah, I drink, but I don't go out to bars and knock them back on the weekends. Yeah. Grew up with an alcoholic father, so banned it in my house, sparing my kids from the trauma. Yeah, yeah.
Serena, I will protect
You
your
don't
faith.
want my bagel.
I will I will die on that hill with you, Serena. I see that. Oh, she and I need to follow up. So what we're looking at here, just to give everybody perspective, what you're seeing is on the inner part of it is the U.S. birth chart. We took, July 4th, 1776
Yeah.
at 5:15, 5:10 p.m., which is when they say, it was just after 5 o'clock when they called the council and everybody started signing up. So that is where the declaration is at, 5 o'clock, 10 minutes into the speech. That's when they go. And
Mm.
you have a ton of duality here. You have a ton of aspects to it. The first thing I'm going to point out is that we're coming up on our Uranus return. This is going to be a huge conversation piece for
Mm.
astrologers coming forward. Start getting used to it now. I have one in production already. I've filmed it. I've been piecing it together. It is definitely about it is definitely going to affect a lot of things here in the United States. But
Mm.
when you the things that jump out at me is, of course, where the placements are at the moment of the solstice. What jumps out at you first?
Yeah. Listen, I just want to answer ICANN 7C about, do you see anything else going away in regards to food and drink? Yes, I do. I think more and more people are going to be far more conscious about what they eat in terms of whether it is animal or vegetable. And I think there is going to be a huge shift and change away from carnivores to herbivores and, basically to vegetarianism and veganism. I
Yeah.
think that's already. I mean, I never would have thought in a million years that I would have become a vegetarian, but I have. In fact, I'm virtually becoming vegan, and this has just totally shocked me. But it's made my health 1,000% better. My digestion is better. It's easier to eat and keep my weight off. So
Yeah.
I'm eating healthy, but I don't get fat. I don't put weight on. And I realize now that actually meat, for me, I'm not saying that goes for everyone, doesn't agree with me. And yet I'm
Yeah.
not a woo-woo, floaty with leather sandals person. I just don't want to eat meat. I have an abhorrence now of thinking of animals just in the queue, being queued up to be slaughtered. It just kills me.
It's also a rise in consciousness, and it does have everything to do with the astrology, because if you listen to some of the commentary that we talk about with us, we do draw it back to the astrology part of it. We do draw it back to where we go with things. But I think that, like with everything, it's turning into moderation. And by the way, Kelly kind of nailed it when she said, I thought it was the time difference. You were
Yeah,
having a whiskey, I was having a bagel, which is exactly what it was.
yeah.
Which was exactly what it was. She and I were sitting there and we had our first meeting. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to eat. I hadn't eaten anything yet today. I grabbed a bagel on the way in, haven't had a chance to eat
Yeah,
it. And she goes, well, I'm just sitting here with my whiskey. And I go, well, then whiskey and bagels. She goes, that's great. Go with it.
yeah.
Um,
Yes,
yeah.
Kelly.
And the garden thing is real. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Let's look, I was going to say, yes, Kelly, it is individual metabolisms. And I think and I know with blood groups, there's theories that certain blood groups can't do meat. And I'm A positive, and I believe A positive finds it very hard to metabolize meat. And certainly my health has just improved 1,000%. I've only been like this for a year, but it's made a huge difference. And I'm
You
sorry,
should have been a teacher. You should have been a teacher if your blood type is A positive, A plus.
oh, A plus.
I'll be here all weekend. Back to the chart.
Yeah, let's look at this chart, because I think it also, Brandon, apart from the fact that America is coming up to its Uranus return, it's still basically on its Pluto return.
Sure
And
is.
look at Chiron. America is going to have its Chiron return.
Keep going.
In the fourth. Oh, sorry. Okay. In the fourth house. So Chiron return. I also think what's super interesting is that the nodes, as they are currently, are basically coming up to be on the MC and the IC. This is something about the whole destiny of where America is going. And I think it's going to become much more insular. I think that because it's the North Node in the fourth house on the MC in Aries, it's saying we're beginning again, and we are closing our borders, and we are America for Americans. And I think that a lot of the states will become self-governing, in the sense that the sort of a centralized government is going to become less and less able to manage the whole of the United States. Does any of that kind of make any sense to you?
It makes a ton of sense, because you're really dealing with idiocracy now. If you haven't seen the movie Idiocracy, you need to watch it. It is a documentary at this point, where basically we evolve to a point where we have so many things handed to us that we let incompetent people ruin it. And that is, someday we're going to look back at this and celebrate the idea that we had this dismantling and we had to get rid of things. And it's a series of throwing out the baby with the bathwater over and over again. Yes, you can be solution based, and yes, you can address a problem, but the immigration thing keeps going back to it. You don't get rid of the immigrants, you improve the process. That is the consistent theme over again, right?
Yeah.
And that Pluto return is you saying, what are we going to spend our time on? What are we going to spend our effort on? What are we going to empower ourselves with, right?
What do we value in the second
Value.
house? What do we value?
Mm-hmm.
That South Node and North Node, the South Node natally in Aquarius and the North Node in Leo, of course, is going to be crossing this Pluto-Mars opposition. And if you think back to the beginning of November, which was when you had the election on the 5th of November, we had the Mars opposition, but from Cancer to Capricorn. Now it's moving into Leo and Aquarius, and on January 3rd, it will be exact again. So you will get Mars and Pluto, Mars in Leo retrograde, opposite Pluto direct in Aquarius, in an opposition, widely conjunct the North Node and the South Node of the United States. Something big is happening in the financial markets when they open up after the new year. Something major happens somewhere on the planet, whether it's in the States or somewhere else. Something really major happens that absolutely shocks the SH1T out of us, because I just think that the economy could really, just have a few problems. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think we are about to get the largest false flag operation we have ever witnessed in the history of man. And I think this UFO thing has been part of it. I think the UFO thing is definitely part of the dynamic. I think that it is primarying us to be like, what are we afraid of? What are we dealing with? What are we up against, right? The market issues, when you look at, it's one thing when you say, okay, we have fiat money. It's one thing when you say, okay, we're going to have a gold standard. And if everybody believes in it, just like Santa, If you
Mm-hmm.
watched my video last night, if you believe in Santa, Santa is real so long as everybody buys into it. And then over time, Santa slowly dies and it becomes a thing where it's like, oh, look at those anarchic people that are like, they still want to uphold Santa. And how could you teach your kids Santa? And how could you? It's all a lie and blah, blah, blah. Well, now we're in the history of the age where, it's Christmas Eve, everybody, and we're about to figure out the dawning of a new age because we're seeing all of these lies fall apart. The financial markets are completely unsustainable based on any of the laws of economics. Anybody with a half a brain recognizes that the things that happen to be doing well right now are overinflated, have a good marketing scheme, and have a great salesman behind it in whatever capacity it is, whether it's blackmail, which is a form of marketing, or if it's just kind of like falsifying information and documents. I mean, look at all of the things that we have, when you look at the '08 crashes, when you look at the '08 financial problems that went on with this, the astrology played a key marker in it because Pluto was moving into Capricorn. It was literally saying that, hold my beer. We've got to clean this stuff up, right? As it moves in '06 and it moves forward, all of that stuff. The dynamic that we're at now, though, is that everything that's been happening, the housing bubbles, the tech bubbles, the whatever, you look at Bitcoin lost like $180 yesterday and it only lost something like less than a half, like less than 2% of its value. That's insane. That's insane. And could you show me a Bitcoin? Anyone?
No.
It's a made up fabrication. I mean, Bitcoin is the Santa Claus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you see a chart like this drawing up the idea that you're going to have secrets revealed, you're going to have things move into all of the challenges and all of the problems that are laying itself out there. I mean, by gosh, we've got some serious, serious work to do. And I think Saturn in the third house,
Yeah.
at this time where it's moving,
And
where it's moving.
look at it in complete opposition to the moon in Virgo in the 9th.
Well, then it looks like it's completing, it's completing that mutable cross,
And then
right?
you've got the Jupiter Saturn square, so which isn't exact on the 21st, it's exact on the 24th. So, the start of next week, I think, is
Mm.
interesting. Of course, actually what people are doing, the markets are all winding down because
Yeah.
it's Christmas. And I think it's going to get incredibly intense and fractious and busy on Monday and Tuesday, Christmas Eve. And I suspect there will be some surprises. And there is something here about a truth coming out because Mercury in that 12th house in Sagittarius, in opposition or coming up to, it's actually in opposition to the natal Uranus of the US chart. And that is telling me that some shocking, shocking news is going to be revealed at the beginning of next week.
But what is shock now? I
We
mean, I
don't.
mean,
I
yeah,
mean, maybe it's good news. You know, we don't
I'll
know.
take it today. I'll take it today. And the reason why I'm saying what is shocking now, I mean, we just elected a man who, by all intents and purposes, is completely disqualified to be the president. Not
Mm,
just his soft skills, not just his inability to comprehend anything, let alone his ability to read, but rather he violated the 14th Amendment. He was subject to, in part or any part, whole or adjacent, part of an insurrection movement.
mm.
That automatically makes you disqualified to be the president. So when you say shocking, I mean, what's shocking? Aliens? What's
Well,
shocking? Is it?
something could come out. And I just want to say to Kelly McCall, yeah, if Star Trek was prophetic, we will have a federation of countries inevitably. I think that's absolutely probably exactly the way we're going. And that fits in with the Pluto in Aquarius energy. And
Mm.
I think that we haven't touched yet really on this drone or UFO or UAP
Yeah.
phenomena, whatever it is. And if you go over to my channel with
Yeah.
Sarah, with Sam Smith, Channeling with Penny and Sarah, we've done several videos and we've put pictures up of something we saw. Sarah's seen it 3 times. I saw it once outside my apartment, way out, but over the sea, and it moved across very fast, stopped, then moved slowly, and then descended into the sea. The other thing was that one was
Mm.
hovering over Sarah where she lives, and she lives about 3 minutes away from me. And when she took a picture of it, when you expand it and just kind of keep making it bigger, it's got an Ouroboros in it. And an Ouroboros is the snake that eats its own tail.
Eats
I mean,
itself. Yeah.
WTF is that? Is this a signal or a message from, you know, other dimensions saying,
Yeah.
listen, planet Earth, you are in great danger of complete self-destruction. Please do not shoot yourselves in the foot.
You go back to ancient symbolism, and the snake eating itself was a sign of infinity, of cycles repeating and constantly, never changing. What are you going to do differently? Not swallow? What are you going to do? Change what you're going to eat, change what you're going to, cyclically do. And we're a very social creature. That's the thing that we have to understand about the human condition, is that we are very much a social creature. We are not truth seeking. We don't like truth seeking. We don't like the truth. We like our politicians filthy underneath, well presented out top, right? Which has been the appeal for Trump from the beginning. Like, I don't agree with him. I don't like him as the person. I've heard all of this crap. But I really like that he's doing things differently. They want to change for change's sake, which is the FAFO. It's the fuck around and find out. So we push somebody ahead.
Yeah, and a lot of people saying in the chat, which really complements what you're saying about we're all about dreams and hope. Because reality is too hard for us to face.
Correct. So that healthy dose of truth comes in. And when we analyze ancient stuff, and by the way, this comes back to your UAP, the ancient wisdom of things, like of seeing, whether it be crafts or talking about things rising or thinking about energy, what have you, is the idea that this isn't new. And for the idea that now an alien configuration would now be interested in being nefarious is beyond me. It is just fear mongering. So when you see that, you saw it on purpose. You saw it because you have a YouTube channel. You saw it because you can disseminate information. You were chosen in whatever capacity it was that vision was presented to you. It allowed you to recognize that you're part of something bigger here. You're part of a dynamic of a truth. So are you going to be social and be like, hey, everybody, look out for the UAP? Or are you going to be truth seeking and say, and go, what are we up against? What are we doing?
And that's exactly what Sarah and I have been trying to do. We've been trying to say, look, this is what we saw. We have no idea what it is. And, we were aware that we were getting the comments of, Photoshop and all of this. I said, I don't have the technical skills to do that. I haven't a clue how to use those apps where you can create something that, I just don't know how to do it. And believe me or not, it doesn't really matter, because I know what I saw. Sarah knows what she saw. And also there have been other sightings of similar UAPs, let's call them, not just round Gozo and Malta, but in the Isle of Man and off the coast of Canterbury in Kent in England, which I think is quite interesting. So Europe is and this was this was before you had the events in America with the so-called drones or whatever they are. And I've seen images of the drones, and they weren't anything like the objects that we saw here. It was in no way similar. And I think that the Uranus return for the United
Mhm.
States, I think very much is about the awakening of the collective. I think we are being woken up um, gently to the fact that, of course, we're not alone in the universe. Good God, where is our arrogance from, for goodness sake? There is, this universe has been teeming with different life forms, energy forms, dimensions of any description you can possibly even imagine for trillions of years. We're just one small little tiny dot out
Yeah.
there in this little far off backwater galaxy, and you know, having all shooting each other and killing each other still. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, hello.
And it's the perfect astrological weather for a psyop. 100%. And I'm going to point this out. So in natally, our country,
Mhm.
Uranus is in Gemini in the sixth house, which is about a very unique placement. It's about a very uniqueness about yourself. Like if you're in America, you know you're in America. If you meet an American, you're like, for good, bad, or indifferent, there's a uniqueness, there is a pioneering to it. And all of that is truly valuable. Now, Uranus in the sixth house in and of itself is you are a game changer. You are going to work with things. So it's but Uranus in and of itself is kind of an oppositional placed idea. So when Uranus is in Taurus as it is in the sixth house, the translation is your personal rebellion will be about your values. Your
Mm,
personal ideas will be that. It is an opposition to the rising sign of Scorpio, which is the subconscious,
mm.
against the AS, the ascending. That is the perfect time to mess with your psyche. It is the perfect time for that. So, to make you feel unworthy, to make you feel unwanted, to make you feel unsafe is
Mm.
afoot. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that or no?
It does, and what I'm picking up on is somebody just said can't the message has disappeared, but someone was saying, oh yes, maybe it was Kelly McCall. Drones, some are military, some are UAP, and some may be Elon. And someone else had said something about it could be Orange Head and Musk and various others. That is it in Russia? Is it homemade? Is it planetary made? Is this some kind of,
Mm,
is that what it is? Or is it actually something from outside of our, did you see the NASA thing that was talked about where the, what appeared to be a very large object appeared to be refueling from the sun, plasma streams, sucking
oh,
it.
that's no, I haven't. No, I haven't. You know I love that stuff though.
NASA took pictures of this. It was an object that was so large, it was the size of Jupiter. And it had what looked like, they said, and you can look up NASA. It had Stephen Burns on YouTube, who does solar weather and astrology, did a video about 3 days ago about it. Stephen Burns, his name is, and he said it looks like there is a just a huge, massive planet. Let's call it a mothership. For let's make it exciting and interesting, and say it's, and
Yeah.
that there is that it was actually refueling the plasma streams that were being sent off the sun. I mean, I don't know. I'm just the messenger. I'm just reporting what I've seen and what I've heard. And
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I haven't seen. Maybe I sort of recognize him,
what,
but
Stephen Burns? Yes, that's right, Amac. Stephen Burns. That's where I saw it.
Kevin Burns or Steven Burns?
No, Stephen, Stefan. Stephen Burns. He's a cool guy, and he's also an astrologist. So he looks at solar weather when we get solar storms heading towards planet Earth, so that because this can cause lots of communication breakdown. it can put satellites out, it can cause, internet outages, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And and I'm seeing a lot of people. Someone here, Warrior Widow, is saying he's great. Stephen Burns, plasma technologies will be the next step for mankind. Yes, someone was recommending to me to try plasma treatment for my bad shoulder. And
Interesting.
mm,
I can give you plasma.
I bet you can.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where this is going.
Keep it clean. Keep it clean.
This is the final days where we got banned. Yeah, the Stephen Burns. Yeah. Okay, I've seen this. I'm adding it into my channel stuff. I think he's got some. I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him yet, so I don't want to vouch for him or not.
But NASA, Patty says NASA said it was a solar eruption. But I just recommend that you watch the Stephen Burns video from about 3 days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, and it's about whatever was seen around the
God,
sun.
I love this stuff. I love this stuff.
It's fascinating.
I love it.
Astrology does support it. That's what I'm saying. Because Uranus is about the revelation, the revealing of, the awakening of.
Yeah.
And when Uranus finally fully moves into Gemini, which won't really be till mid-2026, we are going to have our minds blown away. I hope not literally.
Yeah.
We are going to have to wake up big time to a lot of information that is going to come to us that is just going to be absolutely mind-blowing. And before we finish this particular chart and start winding things down, because I know we are very hot on our boundaries, aren't we, Brandon?
Boundaries are hot.
Oh, yes. And the sun in Capricorn, as it's moved into Capricorn on the winter solstice, I think it's interesting because it's in the first house of the US chart. So there is something here that says to me, this is on one level positive. So it is a positive for the United States for the next 3 to 4 months. However, it's Capricorn, it's austerity, it's tightening the belt, it's feeling a little bit like suddenly we've got to all be kind of really watching how much we spend, and a contraction, because remember Saturn rules Capricorn, so it's a contraction, it's boundaries, it's rules. I think there is going to be a real slapdown again on freedom of speech, and I think platforms like YouTube are going to have a real problem, and we might find we have to go to Rumble.
Well, that's why you should really sign up for our emails, because currently we aren't being declined anything, but everybody that has a YouTube channel and again, I'm building this platform for YouTube. I have a backup plan as I'm creating it. Like, okay. I need to have a backup plan, which is, the contributors that are going to be on this are that's their first question. They're like, well, if we put a lot of energy into this, what happens if it gets pulled? Well, I'm going to tell you what happens when it gets pulled. We're going to recognize that those are some challenges that we have to be very realistic about. By the way, I just want to point out Jupiter in the winter solstice right here, and I'm going to go back to this chart right now, because this is this is one of those things that you see. So I want to pay attention. I want to pay attention to this right here. Is Jupiter
in Gemini retrograde in the 7th?
Yeah, I don't have it prepared, but on the other side of this, Donald Trump's sun, the sun in the sky, his natal sun, is at 22, which is just inside of this in the 8th house, which is other people's money, death, sex, taxes, all that other good stuff.
Okay.
So for him, the power of the relationships, Jupiter being in the 7th house, in conjunct, and it's moving into conjunct. The challenge with that is he is going to try and grift enough people, including world leaders. He's going to tick people off. So when we talk about the US chart and we talk about Trump's inability to, carry a
Mm,
sentence and read a
mm,
document,
yeah.
this is how astrology says you'd better be well-rounded
Mm,
or it's not going to work. And the last piece of this for me with the astrology part of it back on the US chart is that when you look at this empowerment of Jupiter sitting here and then Mercury being in the 12th house, even though they're in opposition, a true opposition, they would be in opposite houses, like the 12 and the 6 or the 7 and the 1. But this
mm,
is still in opposition. So it creates an anomaly of the communication style where it is working within duality. It is working within how it is that we're working with everybody around us, right?
mm,
And I think that it is a prolonged conversation for us to recognize that not only are we working with our own relationships, so much of the challenge of the United States is how it builds relationships. Does it
mm,
build relationships because we bomb them and when we built them up? Did we
mm,
build relationships because we cut up everything and then divvied it out at the end of a war? Is it
mhm,
because we're trade partners with you? Is it because we have good relations because of whatever, inter whatever? The
mhm.
one thing that I think, and as soon as I say this, this entire channel is going to blow up. All of this, all of this tariff stuff, all of this conversation. I mean, he doesn't understand basic rudimentary economics. That's besides the point. That's on the Waldorf school or where the Wharton school, wherever the hell he went to, which by the way has distanced himself from him. But the one thing that you've got to recognize with all of this tariff conversation is if you are going to tariff all of the products, you are going to hurt every relationship. And it's not, and he doesn't understand that, oh, I just want to tariff Colombia. He's putting a tariff on you, the citizen. So he is ruining the communication. And if you don't think, oh, well, I just won't buy tariff things, enjoy getting your coffee. The United States produces about 2% of the world coffee out of Hawaii alone. And it is
Wow.
a very small amount. It ain't enough to keep me going, I'll tell you that much. Like
Or
I
maybe.
alone consume 2.5%.
And I just want to say something else because you mentioned Trump's chart, and I mean I do know it quite well, and I know he's late degrees Leo ascendant. So this Mars retrograde and Pluto opposition are respectively in his 6th and 12th house, and I think something is blowing up in his face around the beginning of the new year. And I don't know what I mean by that, but you know me, I come out with these things. I don't know what they mean. I'm just saying the words that come into my head. And I'm not meaning it in a disparaging way. I'm not wishing
Yep.
harm on the man, on anyone. But this could be words. This could be words that blow up in his face. That
He's a
he is
Trojan horse.
sorry?
He's a Trojan horse.
Yeah,
It's just to get the Republican Party in there. They're going to do away with him. There's no way in hell he's ever going to be an effective person. That's why he's acting like that's why he's out there dancing to, instead of rallying, he's just like, hey, let's hear the song again, this time with words. Like, what are you doing in this thing? Come on. Come on. Not only is it not presidential, it's somebody that's playing with house money because he knows he's already won. Right? But that comes at a price. That price is, hey, we're going to exonerate you. Hey, we're going to bring you to another level. Hey, he's trying to make the argument that he can run for another term because they're not consecutive and blah, blah, blah. He's just making shit up because he can, because he knows his days are numbered. I look
okay.
at Donald Trump and I see somebody that knows his day is coming. There, I said it.
Mm,
He's compromised. He
mm,
is completely compromised. And I'm going to stand behind everything I've said. Donald Trump is going to leave this country. He is going to go to live somewhere else. He is going to say that he's been overthrown and he'll never accept responsibility that he made the deal with the devil. He's going to go to another country. And by the way, he set it in motion back a year and a half ago when I said he's leaving the country. I'm telling you, this stuff was set in stone.
mm,
And now it's just coming to fruition. And
mm.
we're seeing it play out. And it's a hard day for him. Every day is a hard day for him. Every
Mm.
day.
Yeah,
Good.
Yeah, and see me, you're mentioning recession, and I think that recession is going to filter over into the whole of the world, and I think it's going to be a tough first half of the year. And with that Jupiter Saturn square, you've got to think of it in the sense that you've got Jupiter that wants to expand and spend and have fun and all the rest of it, and Saturn is saying, no, you don't, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Frugality is the way to go. So
And
I like that. Beth Hendrickson, Trojan horse.
yeah, the Trojan horse idea. He is not anything effective. He was a Trojan horse to destroy things. Biden wrestled it back. They figured out the technology. There's nothing. Everything is it's the most unscrupulous group of thought processors where we're out here trying to hold the door open for each other,
Mm,
give homeless a blanket and a sandwich. We're out here doing the good. They're up there going, yeah, Bitcoin's going to push to a new limit. I'm sorry, what? Fuck your Bitcoin. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Let's deal in reality. By the way, the age of Aquarius, being the fixed energy badass that it is going to it's going to force you to deal with reality because
mm,
you are important to the greater good. And if you don't deal with reality, you are not important to the greater good.
mm,
Anybody getting what I just put down? These fake mongerers, these fear fake mongerers are trying to create false narratives, false flags, psyops, things that we've tested for years.
mm.
And now it's coming to fruition. They are going to sit in this very unauthentic energy, and the age of Aquarius is authentic. End of convo.
Quickly before we finish, because you might know this, I don't know it. Janet Moody is saying, if he does get sworn in, have we processed JD Vance's chart? If he doesn't get sworn in, have you processed JD Vance's chart? What? Because
Why? I have
isn't he
several.
isn't he even worse?
Um, Astrologically, I'm going to tell you,
Because I
I,
don't know his chart, so
I do, and I did a comparison chart to Donald Trump and JD Vance. JD Vance is also a late Leo rising. He is almost the exact same fucking person. I'm telling you. He has Taurus in the 10th house. He has so Algol is still in that aspect to it. You also have the dynamic of there were three things where I thought he could change. There was one, the communication style. Like, it's ridiculous how close they are.
right.
Ridiculous.
Mm,
And energetically, they're just kind of like, oh, we'll kind of do this. He's a failed businessman. He's a failed entrepreneur
mm,
himself. So he's got to be, like him there. But then he also, I mean, this is wife number one. I'm telling you, JD Vance is in the middle of leaving his wife. He is 100% in the middle of leaving his wife. They're going to get sworn in. They're going to be whatever. And then she's going to take a step back because of the public life and blah, blah, blah. And then there'll be whispers about this, that, and the other thing. And then he'll be like, yeah, here's number two. Right.
that's scary.
Yeah.
Because somebody I spoke to, one of my clients in the States at some point, was saying that she really feels like it's back to the Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah. I mean, well, look at that. If you read, and here we go. We're going to take off. We need to wrap up after this one.
Yeah.
But Project 2025 is one of the most hideous, back central conversations this country has ever had. It
Mm-hmm.
is when Donald Trump produced, this is all you need to know. When Donald Trump produced and put his name on a Bible, he put in Lee Greenwood's to be an American, proud to be an American, which he cultivated into three other countries and it didn't work, blah, blah, blah. It is not a uniquely American tune. They will try and make that song the national anthem. I am telling you this right now. They're going to try and destroy it. They're going to make it. They're going to say this needs to be played before every home game. They're going to push that song like nobody's business. They also put in there the Constitution because we're faithful Americans. And then they put in the amendments, and the amendments are very important because what the amendments are in the United States government is the idea of the Constitution is a great idea in the primer. The amendments are the things that change over time. They're the things that add in things like, well, we need freedom of speech. We didn't really cover this. We're going to talk about freedom of speech. Second Amendment, we're going to talk about the guns that we own. Who gets to own guns? Who's going to be allowed to do this? We're going to go right down each one of them and say, we're going to ad lib other pieces to it. The Donald Trump Bible only put in the first 10 articles and skipped and didn't put any more in, including the amendment for women to vote, including the amendment that talks about insurrectionists not being able to be president. It basically took out any of the modernizations of equality, anti-slavery, anti-women, anti-booze, blah, blah, blah. Literally, without merit, they conveniently forgot to add in the parts that actually have made us be an advanced civilization. Project 2025 is the most dangerous manifesto. It makes Mein Kampf look like a kindergarten coloring book. It is that egregious. Period.
So back to prohibition.
Yeah.
Prohibition America.
Okay. Anything to control. See, but alcohol serves them. So instead of saying it's yes or no, they just won't address it. Here's the difference. Donald Trump never denounced negative. Charlottesville happened. We're basically known racists were marching, right? And basically disrupted this whole thing, and it caused a fight. Charlottesville was a disgusting moment in history. And as a leader, he came out and said, there's good people on both sides. For a man that has eviscerated people over the decades with opinions and challenges and opinions that never even get are proven wrong, and he doesn't care. He took the middle aisle of evil. There's good people on both sides. Jeffrey Epstein, I wish him well. I met him a few times. You know, I don't have anything to do with him now. And by the way, you're not going to find Donald Trump on the flight logs. He had his own plane. Everybody, why do you think he developed his own airline? Trump Airline was one of the biggest boondoggles he'd ever done. First of all, he bankrupted a casino. The only reason why you bankrupt a casino is because you're taking out more than you're letting come in. It was a front for Russian oligarchs. This guy is so compromised. I don't care either, honey.
I pulled this for Trump.
Oh. Well, first of all, it's an Aquarian card. It is a very cold, it is the Ice Queen card. In other words, he better watch his back with Melania. He better watch his back with his daughter. He better watch his back with Liz Cheney. Because let me tell you something about the Ice Queen cometh. She is unforgiving. She does not care. And she doesn't have any tissues on her. She doesn't care if you're crying.
It looks like a judge, doesn't it? This looks like the sort of, the judgment. I mean, I know it's not, but the Queen of Swords, it has that feel about it, doesn't it, of judgment.
It will eviscerate toxic masculinity, because look at the size of that sword. Am I right or am I right? And then she sits on the icy throne. It is a cold blue sky. It is your ability to change through taking out the emotional distance. It's becoming emotionally distant and using logic. It is, I mean, listen, he's going to get held accountable eventually. And it's not good enough for me to be held accountable by a creator.
Yeah.
Like, he is doing crimes against humanity because he is inhuman. A dish best served cold. Ain't that right? Yep. Look at that sword. Listen, I miss you when I'm not with you.
No.
You know that, right? Well, and we have a lot of fun here, right?
Yeah. And listen, everybody has been so chatty and really, I think, encouraging us to give you some good information and astrology tonight. And I really, really hope everybody has enjoyed it, because I have.
Yeah, it's one of the favorite things that I love to do in this work. And,
yes,
baby, what's that, love?
Well, that's very interesting, Jam LeBlanc, because she's saying it's like Marie Antoinette said in the French Revolution, oh, if they haven't got bread, let them have cake.
Which was a throw at them because it was the idea that they would have like, well, we'll let them understand what the good life is. They're not worth anything.
You know what? The last time Pluto was, oh no, sorry, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, we had the French Revolution
Of
when
course,
Marie Antoinette said the famous line, if she ever did say it, if the peasants haven't got bread, please give them cake. And I think
mm-hmm.
she was totally sheltered, had no idea what went on outside the palace walls. And, it's the way it was. And of course, you had you had the American Civil War, didn't you?
Oh, yes, we did. And as a matter of fact, there's also, no. That's Uranus.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
But
Totally.
Pluto in Aquarius, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, we had the French Revolution.
It's a thing. It's a thing. All right, love. Listen, I want you to have a good Christmas.
Thank you.
I'm
And
glad
you.
I'm glad George is back.
Oh, my lovely pussycat. Honestly, I'm so happy he's back. I tell you, I love my pussycat. You're very happy I added the word cat, aren't you?
I don't do this, guys. Like I get the emails when you say shit like that. I'm just telling you. I love doing this work. I love seeing you out here. We've been sparing because we were all recalibrating, and during that time we've grown. I think you guys are going to love where we're going in 2025. I think you're going to really enjoy the dynamics that are coming, and it's really about our uncovering the truth.
You're frozen. You're frozen.
Enough.
You froze.
They hate it when I start talking truth.
Yeah,
of course I did. Of course I did. I have a new carrier coming in next week.
What?
But I don't know. See, this is a part where everybody's telling us to behave. Paul is telling us to behave. Kelly's giving it. Yeah, okay. All right, guys. Well, listen, I'm glad that my new viewers got introduced to Penny this way. Love seeing everybody across the world. We're going to give
Please subscribe to each channels. We'd really appreciate that.
That is the fun stuff. It is all I'm being put in timeout. You bring up the P word and I freeze. Like clearly, this is like me working with my.
And I just think that
cosmic.
We have built the most wonderful community. You guys that are there tonight watching me and Brandon live are friggin' awesome. I love you all to bits. And I want to wish you all a very, very happy holiday season, because I'm going to be terribly politically correct. And to say I'm going to be doing my live week ahead, which will be my take on the winter solstice from a slightly different angle on Sunday, the whatever it is, 22nd of December. And check out my other channel as well, Channeling with Penny and Sarah. We've got our 2025 predictions up. And don't forget to get my 2025 astrological predictions, your rising sign, sun sign, and moon sign. And Brandon, I love you too.
You're the best. Looks like we made it. And by the way, no, we aren't going to get tagged, and no, we're not going to get demonetized. They can't understand the key of miserable. All right, guys. Love you guys the best. Heart taps, guys, around the world. Penny, thank you as always. And remember, guys, just keep going. We'll see you soon. Take care. Merry Christmas.